Welcome back, everyone, to the final credits. And normally we like to talk about movies and TV shows and everything. And we may have a bit of a problem now. A problem that the industry has faced before, and it is a valid problem. The problem now is that, once again, after I don't even know how many years ago,
I think
the
07.
writers, I'm sorry?
I think it was in 07.
In 07, this happened. We're now in the year 2023, and it is happening once again. The writers are going on strike. Now, how this is going to affect us in the future now is unknown, but looking at what it has done in the past, it wasn't good at all. It was only 3 months, and it affected literally how we actually view TV shows now.
Yep.
Spade, you actually brought this up earlier. Would you care to elaborate on that? Because once you told me, fully agreed with you. Like, please.
Okay. So, all right, here's the thing. So back in the day, when you used to watch a TV show, it used to be, usually TV shows are about 20, 22 episodes per season, right?
Yep.
And because the strike happened in between a season, it caused the season to stop. And when the writers came back and they started working again and everything like that, they didn't cancel some shows. They just, wherever they picked off, the new writers headed off the episode. The problem with that is these studios or the channels themselves, they loved it so much. They're like, oh, we should have pauses in between all our shows. Mm-hmm. And because of that, this is why we have these mid-season finales. And, we won't see the show for another 2 months again. And, just like Grimm, I despise that. Like, give me the show straight. Give me an episode every single week until it's over. And because of that writer's strike, what did they do? Oh, here's 10 episodes, and then, we'll come back in 2 months and we'll give you the next 10. No, just give me the whole thing. I want to see it.
Season 3A and season 3B. Like, nobody.
Yeah, I hate that.
The new favorite term, the midwinter finale, the midsummer finale. I'm like,
stupid.
Stop. Give me the whole thing, because now it actually does affect the story and the writing. Because now that story that takes 20 episodes long, that you get such a good and big payoff off of it, is now condensed into 8 episodes. You literally wrote yourselves into a corner.
Yep.
That's bad.
100%.
And now, like, as I said earlier, now a couple of things that will be affected by this is all the things that are happening live, like Saturday Night Live, all the late time talk shows and everything. Those are all being done live. More than likely, there's a good chance we're going to see just reruns of those. And for the fans out there who really enjoy those shows, I don't want to bring this bad news to you, but it's more than likely going to happen.
I mean, no, all those shows you listed, they've already gone dark.
But keep in mind, this is only for the U.S.
That's
internationally, true. Writers can still do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that means what? That in the next few months, we're going to see.
I'm going to watch a lot more anime.
or we're going to see an influx of international shows that were big in, let's say, England or whatever, anywhere else.
Squid Game,
or they're going to be dubbed.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to have a lot more, South Korea made movies like
Squid Games.
Yes. So I don't know. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I think it's a bad thing. Definitely. And those poor people, like, the problem with it is they ask, like, usually when you go into a situation like this, you're going to come in and say, these are my demands. And the studios will say, they'll counter offer and say, well, I'm going to take your demands. And instead, how about we twist it and we do this instead? Hollywood's not doing that. The writers said, we want A, B, C, D. And Hollywood said no to everything. And you know what? I
Wow.
don't blame them for going into strike. I don't
Yeah.
blame them at all. They should. They work their asses off writing these scripts and giving. If it's not for the writers, actors, directors, filmographers, everybody in the industry would have nothing to film.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
because of that, you're ruining a whole business. So I think Hollywood should open up their pockets and give these people what they want and what they need.
So the thing is, though, because I'm looking at an article right now that kind of lists like the main 5 things that the writers are looking for, like the unions. Not all of it
Please.
has to do with just money. So yes, like the biggest one is obviously increased pay, but also too, like just from like an infrastructural standpoint with like how how they get paid, or like how like their residuals work, like how they're staffed and everything, like that's all coming into play right now. Like, but one thing that it's really interesting to me, something else that's been in the news a lot, AI. They are like, one of the things that they're nervous about is that they feel like they're not getting protected enough from the influx of AI writing, because obviously the past only few months we've seen such like an advancement of like how AI can really inform its own scripts, and like like how it words things, like anything you throw at it, it can like really make something out of it. Is it not? It's not 100% perfect yet, but the rate of how it's advancing is
No.
making them very nervous as well.
Also, another thing I wanted to point out, one thing that was pretty much non-existent in 2007 that's huge in 2023, we have the streaming studios
Yep.
that all these writers are working for: Netflix, Amazon, Apple. It's not just a traditional NBC, Fox, ABC anymore. Streaming is taking over TV and movies, so it's not the traditional 20 to 23 episode format, and the writers probably are working on a different schedule because the streaming shows are all year round. And that's probably a big part of it in the negotiations between the studios, because those studios didn't exist back then and they didn't have to put up with the writers' demands now. So they have to step up along with Warner Brothers, along with NBC, along with Fox, which is now associated with Disney, I should mention, to be in the current world. So they have are the major players that has probably contributed to more to the strike than the traditional stuff from 15, 16 years ago.
And an interesting point to that too, when it comes to streaming, this article also is talking about like how like streaming services, like those companies don't share viewership data with like filmmakers and writers. So end of the day, they don't know how valuable their work really is, because if they're getting like a certain amount of like views, or if they're getting a certain amount of like how the viewership is like being retented and everything like that, like they could be making like a lot more, they could be more valuable to those streaming companies than the streaming companies are letting on. So even that as well, like they could be taking advantage of that too. Like, it's a lot of it has to do with like protections towards writers, and like a very very not like hostile, but like the rate of how much change in their environment, in their industry is happening, and how fast it's happening. They really just want to put the brakes on things and say like, hey, like, we don't want to be dragged in the mud amongst all of these things going on between like AI, streaming, like the rights around it, all that stuff. Pay, it's like I said, like that's top of the list, but like that is like tip of the iceberg as well. So a lot of and I have to take the sides of the unions on this one. Like they really need to like keep their foot down on these things, because like the end of the day, these streaming companies, these studios, they're going to do what they want to do to keep as much money for themselves as possible. So I say keep the fight going.
So the studios provide the money, the actors bring the projects to life on screen along with all the people working on set, but you could easily say the writers are the lifeblood of Hollywood.
Yep.
Of course,
Yes,
the backbone.
and they feel like more the everyday people, but happen to be writing these amazing scripts that come to life on TV and movie, and they deserve the bigger piece of the pie. You look at other strikes, like full disclosure, I'm a sports fan, but it's hard to sympathize with millionaires arguing with billionaires in the NFL, for example. The writers definitely deserve their fair share, and the studios better step up, because 3 months into 07 into 08, but that was that was still a long time and affected everything.
It felt like an
So-
eternity.
So
because
hopefully they learn from their past mistakes and it's a lot shorter and the writers get what they truly deserve. I like to equate this maybe with a real world job when if a transit union goes on strike and affects a subway or a bus system or teachers in an education system, the writers feel like more everyday people, but happen to be artists themselves and are very creative. So we are full supporters of the WGA.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I mean, you know, just
Agreed.
too, what makes me nervous though is that, you know, like with everything that we were saying, like all the things that all the changes that they're looking to make, it's gonna like involve a lot of like upending the table on like just how, you know, streaming's handled, the rights are handled, like with what they want. It's gonna involve a lot of, you know, like big changes to how these, like how TV and, you know, even movie content like gets rolled out and how they get compensated and everything. So I feel like this might be, you know, like maybe it might last a little bit longer than 3 months. Who knows? Because these are pretty, you know, like the demands, like I said, that they're valid, but they're also they're big in the fact that there's a lot of moving parts, and like the industry has to take a hard look at like how they're doing things now and how many things they have to just change, you know, at face value just to meet, you know, those changes, like, you know, to meet the, you know, the writers go like halfway, and you know, we might be looking at like, you know, longer than a 3-month wait for things to kind of even out. So, you know, I hope you guys like reality shows, because we might see an
And
influx
listen,
of those.
So that's
Don't be surprised if the prices on movies go up because of all this. Because if they're going, listen, as much as I want the writers to get their money's worth, the money has to come from somewhere. Bottom line, us as customers are going to have to pay for it. So don't be surprised if movie ticket sales go up, the price of that goes up, the price of your streaming service goes up. So I want them to get their money's worth, but at the same time, though, it's going to hit us because the studios are going to be like, well, I'm not losing my profit margin. I'll just charge it on to the customer. So the customer has to pay for it.
Yeah. And I can only imagine how Kevin Feige's feeling right now, man. It's just like one thing after the next. One thing after the next with the Marvel universe with him right now.
maybe one of these days we'll do an entire video committed to Feige and his ups and downs in MCU. But for now, that's how we feel about this. We hope everything gets expedited quickly, honestly, for the final credits at the very least. But like I said, that's how we feel. How do you guys feel about this? Let us know down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all the fun stuff. Hit the notification bell, please. This is honestly a serious issue, at least for us too, because if nothing's being done, it's nothing to review. We also want this to be done, all right? So roll credits. We're out.
Roll credits.
We're out. Roll